Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
Shell casings and a shoe littering I-94 tonight. The freeway shut down for hours after a bizarre shooting incident. And it tops Local 4 News tonight at 11. A man is in the hospital with a gunshot wound, another hospitalized with other injuries.
This freeway shooting unique in that it was contained within one vehicle. Mara McDonald live tonight along I-94 in Trumbull. Mara, what are police saying tonight?
Kimberly, exactly what you just said. You know, this was not a case on 94 where you had cars shooting at one another. Rather, you had one car, 4 men in that car, when one of them pulled out a gun and started shooting inside the car. MSP walking I-94 eastbound tonight between I-96 and Trumbull looking for shell casings. Police say this started with 4 guys in one vehicle. A fight broke out in the moving car on I-94 at 96 when one of them pulled out a gun and started firing, hitting one of the men. So their car gets to Trumbull in 94. One of the men jumps out of that moving car. You can see where he lost a shoe in the process and scrambled up the embankment to get away. Police say he's hurt from his jump from the vehicle but not shot and is being highly uncooperative at the hospital. The man who was shot was taken to the hospital where he is currently in surgery. Back here live, latest word from MSP is that they are still looking for the shooter in this case and the vehicle. We've seen MSP and Detroit police in this immediate area several times tonight, pulling over vehicles that they think potentially were involved, but letting everybody go after that. So they're still looking. If you have any idea where the shooter is, I'd like to hear from you. We're live on Detroit's Near West Side. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Well, okay, Mara, thank you.
The unseasonable warmth we've had today about to exit stage right.
Paul, you're calling this a big crash in temperatures.
Yeah, absolutely. It is stage right, actually. And you can see on Storm Tracker 4, there's not much left in the way of rain. These little streaky things here, actually, you can see the wind. There's pretty good wind gusts behind that cold front. But oh, how the mighty have fallen. Highs that were in the 50s, temperatures were in the 50s just even a couple hours ago in some of these locations, now in the 30s. Detroit itself, one of the last to get the cold air, you've now got a temperature of 41 degrees, west wind at 25 miles per hour. All right, temperature forecast for 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning when you're getting up and getting going. Look at this. We're all in the 20s. And remember, there'll be a breeze out there. As far as the kids are on the bus stop, for those at least that have school tomorrow, it's 20s all day long, breezy and colder, but at least it's going to be dry. All right, I'll have more on the forecast, including the week, the end of the week snow coming up in just a bit. But don't forget the Local Forecasters app is a must-have tool on days like this and a must-have tool on days like Friday morning where we're going to be shoveling snow. Real-time radar right there in the palm of your hand. Just go to the App Store, search under WDIV. See you back here in a few minutes, guys.
All right, Paul. Detroit police have arrested 2 teenagers in a triple shooting that killed a 5-year-old and 2 adults. Their bodies were found Sunday on Detroit's west side, a man, a woman, and her young son. Police say they started getting tips immediately that led them to 2 young suspects, ages just 16 and 17. They're in custody, though they haven't been identified to us yet. But the grandmother of 5-year-old Caleb Harris is stunned all over again, this time by the age of the suspects and what they're accused of doing.
I just can't imagine you pointing a weapon at a 5-year-old and killing my grandchild. He had to be frightened by himself like that.
Police wouldn't comment on a possible motive, saying the investigation is active and fluid, but they will soon ask prosecutors to issue charges.
The suspected Oxford High School shooter was back in court today in a hearing to decide where he will stay while awaiting trial. Ethan Crumbley's attorneys want the 15-year-old moved from the Oakland County Jail to a juvenile facility. As they argued against the motive, or the move, I should say, prosecutors revealed new information in the case. They say Crumbley documented a plan to torture and kill a female classmate. Prosecutors also say Crumbley's journal entries detail the gun he needed to carry out the school shooting and who he would kill first. Crumbley's attorneys say he is a troubled teen and he's not safe in a jail full of adults.
In the time leading up to these events that my client was hallucinating, that he was seeing things, he was hearing voices, and that he had asked his parents to see a therapist.
The defendant isn't who he appears to be. He allows people to see who he wants them to see, and only those close to him, such as his parents, would understand or recognize it.
The judge is expected to announce a decision early next week.
President Biden announcing harsh new sanctions against Russia today after warning that Russian troop deployments into eastern Ukraine amounted to the beginning of an invasion. The rhetoric and fears that Russia's president plans to move deeper into Ukrainian territory, casting doubts over hopes for any last-minute diplomacy. Alice Barr with the latest from Washington.
Tonight, the window for diplomacy is closing as the White House declares a Russian invasion of Ukraine has begun.
Further Russian assault in Ukraine remains a severe threat in the days ahead.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceling a planned meeting this week with Russia's top diplomat.
We will not allow Russia to claim the pretense of diplomacy. At the same time, it accelerates its march down the path of conflict and war.
It comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized two pro-Russian regions in eastern Ukraine as independent and ordered in troops there. Putin now signaling he considers areas beyond those separatist enclaves independent, including some firmly under Ukrainian government control. Russia's parliament today gave Putin full power to use military force outside of Russia, sparking fear among many Ukrainians.
Do you think that he's going to stop?
I'm afraid that he wants to keep going.
President Biden sending more U.S. troops to bolster NATO allies in Eastern Europe as he slaps harsh new sanctions on two large Russian banks and on Russian elites, as well as cutting off Russia's government from Western financing.
Russia will pay an even steeper price if it continues its aggression.
But critics argue it's not enough. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham tweeting, quote, President Biden is not seizing the moment. The sanctions outlined are woefully inadequate. The president emphasizing U.S. sanctions are coordinated with those of allies, including Germany halting a key natural gas pipeline from Russia. Though President Biden warned that move could bring more pain at the pump for Americans. The president promised to do all he could to protect Americans from rising gas prices. Another concern here at home, the Department of Homeland Security is warning of the potential for Russian cyber attacks against U.S. government agencies and businesses. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
All right, Alice, so it's a nerve-wracking time for Ukrainian Americans here in Metro Detroit, and there are many. They are worried about their loved ones overseas and about the precedent an invasion sets for future aggression by Russia. Jason Colthorpe live tonight in Warren with their unique perspective. Jason.
Yeah, and it is, Devin, and because there's been so much misinformation from the Russian side during this invasion and leading up, the one thing Ukrainians would like right now at this point in the conflict is UN peacekeepers to get into Ukraine so the entire world knows exactly what's happening there. The crisis on the Ukrainian border has become an invasion now, according to the White House.
Ukrainians are not unaccustomed to being invaded by their larger northern neighbor. It's happened roughly every 100 years since 1149 AD.
Mykola Mershky chairs the Ukrainian American Crisis Response Team of Michigan.
There was a photo going around on social media of mothers who are giving their kids stickers before they go to school with the kid's blood type. So that way, should something happen, people know that the kid's blood type is this. Yeah. But in order to make those kinds of preparations, you have to stay calm. You can't be panicked.
The 50,000 or so Metro Detroiters of Ukrainian descent have heard stories like that as the conflict escalates. But this shouldn't just matter to them. It should matter to all of us, Mershky says. Forget for a moment Russia's impact on global fuel and Ukraine's on global food. Ideologically, can Russia's sudden belief it can just reassemble an ancient empire by force go unchecked? And if the answer is yes, what's next?
I've had some people, mention to me that we should, Ukraine's far away. Ukraine doesn't really matter. But if we don't respond strongly to Russia's aggression near Russia, what's that going to say about their ability, about how we're going to respond if they attack us here at home?
And moreover, what example would this set if nothing or not enough is done? Mershky says You know, Putin is not the only leader looking to reassemble ancient lands. He points to Stephanie Chang, Michigan State Senator, who's of Taiwanese descent. And they've talked, and her worry is that China could one day be emboldened to do the same type of thing. We'll have to wait and see. It's really an hour-by-hour situation at this point. In Warren tonight, Jason Colthorpe, Local 4.
Can run in so many directions. All right, Jason.